I said before that in Barb's betrayal, I don't think it was Jen that was actually doing the betraying. I think that it was Frank. Let's talk about my thoughts why. Hey, my name is Shauna A. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I may be a therapist, but I'm not your therapist. And to my peeps, if you see me in these interweb streets, you already know you don't know me. I help innovative service-driven clinicians build up their private practice, but from time to time, I love to give commentary on the Shaunaverse. I'm talking about Barb's betrayal in this episode, the full thing. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch that and come back. We're talking specifically about Frank here. I get so frustrated about Frank because when it comes down to it, Frank was not a protector. Now, people say over and over again that he was being emotionally abused by Barb and he did what he knew to do best, which was to protect himself. And I absolutely agree. I see Frank as someone who has been experiencing emotional abuse from Barb. I also like to remind people that Barb is a character who was abused herself, which may also be the driver in some of her mental health issues. But here's the thing. There were children involved, and Barb and Frank served as the first protectors of those children, and neither one did a good job when it came to John and Jen. And that's the part that upsets me the most about Frank. As a matter of fact, I have said this in the last post that I think that Frank is really only stepping up to the plate because he stands to lose Jen. When John initially went no contact, Frank was just kind of like tiptoeing around it. He would show up still versus wanting interference. He would excuse a lot of Barb's behavior. Hey, you don't know what happened. You don't know. You don't know. So he spent a lot of time pacifying all of this. But it wasn't until that Thanksgiving episode where we start to see Frank really call out some things and say, hey, I don't want to lose my children. If Jen had walked out completely, he would have completely lost Jen. And I think that was a problem for Frank because him and Jen have a better connection than him and John. So at the beginning of the episode, we see Frank and Barb deciding on paint. And right away, the betrayal happens because Frank is deceiving Barb into believing that the color that he's going to paint the wall is Cheerful Sky. Here's how we know this. So he has the two paint colors and he said, which one is that? Which one of these two up here do you like? And Barb says, I like the cheerful one. And so when he talks about the cheerful one, he says, this one here is the cheerful one of the two. He goes on to tell her about its benefits. He uses cheerful in the wording again. He compares Cheerful Sky with the yellow undertones to an alligator lagoon. The actual one named Cheerful Sky has the yellow undertones and he compares it to an alligator lagoon. He says this one is more cheerful. And she's like, yes, I'm glad that we agree. So he's calling something cheerful, but it's not the one that she actually knew to be Cheerful Sky. And then he compares it to the rest of the furniture, the maple set in the room and all of this. So he is able to deceive her into painting it the color that she didn't necessarily want. She wanted the Cheerful Sky color. So he betrays her right away in that first instance. And maybe this is the thing. Maybe Frank has been betraying Barb all along. He has been protecting himself. And when Barb presents something that is emotionally all over the place, he recedes, he abandons her, he walks away, he tells her she doesn't need to go to the doctor, he dismisses her. Frank has been betraying Barb this whole time, but in this instance, he's now mastered it enough to be like, you said this, but we're gonna do this. Now, after the room is painted, she likes it. She says that she likes it. She praises him. And then she says, we have to get cushions. Now, I don't know if this moment is Barb getting cushions because she's trying to make another excuse to go to Jen's house, or if she truly really wanted cushions. But at that point, it feels like they are making a connection. They're talking, they're going to do stuff together. So they go, they don't even get cushions. They end up at Jen's condo. Now, my thing is, is about this. Like, Frank, you saw what street we're turning down. You know what house we're at. Who drove? Like, why didn't we back out of this sooner? It was like every moment where Frank is like, I don't know. I don't think this is a good idea. She said the party is this. And Barb is coming up with every excuse under the book. She knows I know what's best, is what she says to him when he's like, she said that she didn't want this. I'm going to call her. Oh, Frank, you're acting like a child. Frank is like, hinting that this is not a good idea is the moment she's like, you're being silly. The door is locked. Use the spare key. All of these instances, she didn't answer the phone. The door is locked. Like, these are all no's. These are all no's. And he just like, oh yeah, I'll get the key. I'll open the door. We're going to let ourselves in. So at this moment, he becomes her accomplice in all of this. And then we walked in and he's surprised now that all of a sudden, we're in trouble. Again, we have another character in the Shaunaverse that doesn't really use their listening ears or really doesn't step up to Barb. This is one of those instances, though, that I think that Frank knew that he wasn't supposed to do this, and he did it anyways because he really was just trying to pacify Barb. He really just wanted to make all of this stop. So they get in there. They have the whole moment, and then he yells at Barb, let's go, get in the car. And she's now hysterical. She's crying. She's upset. Barb's trying to cancel the party, and he says, you're not canceling that party. In this instance, he ran interference. And I think the thing for Frank is that every time he does these things, they fail because he's not practiced. He's not used to countering Barb. So every time he puts in one of these moments where it's like, we should call. Oh, this didn't work. Failed. Get the key. No, don't get the key. He's not used to saying no to Barb. He's not used to countering Barb. So whenever he brings these things up, but he tries in these instances, but he also fails. So I think if he had let her cancel that party, Jen would have been upset because it wasn't just a harm to her. It would have been a harm to Chicky, and that would have made Barb the bad guy. But because he didn't let her cancel the party, and this is unknowing to him, because he didn't let her cancel the party, Barb waged war against Jen. And it kind of saved her in a sense because she didn't cause harm to Chicky. She actually did really good to Chicky. I think Frank knew that if Barb canceled that party, it would be the end game and he would ultimately lose his access to Jen and Chicky. He says some really interesting things to Barb. She dared to make a decision without you. Like I've said before, we've seen Frank go on the defense for Jen. It's really important that he defends Jen. He said John played sports. That wasn't his thing. He was into art. We knew he was going to art classes. Jen was into art. They colored together. They did fun art things together. So it was a lot easier for Frank to show up for Jen in a way that he couldn't show up for John because he didn't feel as connected to John. And he says to Barb, you're going to push her away like you did John. Then the whole party happens. I think Barb decided that she was going to ice out Jen, forcing Jen to come back and confront her, allowing for Barb to really lay it on thick. I think that was Barb's plan. I think that if Frank had caught wind of that, he would have nipped that in the bud. But of course, he didn't. So we get to the end and she confronts him about the paint. I kind of feel like Barb had the right to say, this isn't what I picked out. But she would not have seen her fault in that at all. She would not have seen that the better color for the house was not the cheerful color, but the other color. She wanted just what she wanted. And I think this was more about Barb wanting to be right and wanting what she wanted versus about the actual color in the house. As the paint argument is happening, this is where we get the line, you like the color. Then Frank says, you suck the life of every room you're in and blame everyone else for trying to survive. That was poetry. I say this all the time. When someone has really big emotions, when someone has to make everything about themselves, it just feels like it sucks all of the air out of the room and all of the space out of the room. There's no room for anybody else left. It's all about this one person. And if this one person isn't seen, heard, and validated, then everybody else is just trying to get through the moment so that they can go take a breath someplace else. Now, the interesting thing about this is that we see Frank fully depart from even attempting to make it better. Remember the first time that Barb makes a threat, he says, "Don't say that. Here, I'll make us some sandwiches. You want something to eat? Are you hungry?" He at least tries to soothe her by feeding her. But in this instance, and lately, Barb has one of these big moments and he just scuffs and he says, "Ugh, I don't want to hear it." And he walks away. Before, he would at least try and bring in some sandwiches. This time he did not. So that is my thoughts on Frank. Is this a moment for where I'm like, yeah, go Frank? No, it's not for me. I think Frank has some tremendous work to do, because even in this, like, he didn't protect John. He didn't protect Jennifer. He's often in this space where he's trying to play catch up. He knows that this is wrong. I still think that this is somewhat self-serving for him because he doesn't want to lose his children. I haven't really seen him really take into account the fact that John felt unprotected. He's said sorry but to John quite a bit, and John has really gotten on Frank. Frank is one of those characters that I would love to see continue development, because I don't think he's quite there yet. This is still motivated by, I don't want to lose access to my kids. And so he's trying, he's putting in the effort. A lot of his effort is just coming out of frustration that he could potentially lose access to both kids and grandkids. It doesn't really seem to be coming from a place of actually attempting to make it right. And I just say that because we've seen, even when Frank was like, "Oh, I know that you're mad. I know that you're upset, but she didn't mean it." Or this happened. You don't know what that happened, right? He was still making a lot of excuses instead of being like, "Yeah, you felt unprotected and I get it." Of course, he's not getting things right just yet because he's not practiced, as I've been saying, but I hope to see his character continue to develop. I hope that he really steps in. If my prediction is correct about what may go down at Jen's wedding, I hope that Frank could really step up so that Jen can have a good wedding. But we shall see. Let me know what you think about Frank's character below, and we will go from there. See y'all soon. Bye for now.